Matthew here from miniwargaming.com, and it's time for another Sit and Talk. This is the show where you can ask me anything about wargaming or business, might even get into like politics or religion if you ask. So if you're easily offended by topics such as religion and politics, it does sometimes come up, so just please don't watch this show if you'll just, well, easily get offended by that, because we're just trying to answer questions and have some fun. And if you want your question answered on next week's show, then make sure you leave a comment in the section below, unless you're watching this on YouTube, in which case you should click the link in the video description and leave a comment on our site. And while you are there, thumb up any questions you want to see, because I take the top 10 thumbed up questions and then just random questions after that. There's no sense thumbing down any comments, because even thumb down comments will still be in the random circulation. So just thumb up the ones that you want and leave alone the rest. And of course, I do this in two parts. The first 45 minutes is for free on YouTube, and then I do a special extended version, another 30 minutes for our Vault members, which will also be at the link below. And you can, of course, join the Vault, get a free 7-day trial, and get access to thousands of other battle reports, painting tutorials, behind the scenes, reviews, and all sorts of other stuff. And it helps us to be able to make all these videos. So thank you to all of our Vault members, which many of our Sit and Talk viewers are. So thank you very much. So let's go through this. Kill Slim. Hi Matt, do you think you micromanage or control too much? I ask this because from time to time in your battle reports, you'll sometimes take the helm with opponents' dice rolls, model movements, etc. I know it's a problem I personally have, as my friends have commented on it, but I think it's because I like having things specifically how I have them in my mind. Many thanks. In short, yes, I think I do that too often. The pressure that I have as I am filming a battle report is time. We want to get 2 battle reports done in a day, and it's actually harder than it might sound. You might think, well, in an 8-hour workday, how hard is it to get 2 1,500-point games done, or heck, even 1,850? And it actually is pretty hard, because not only is the setup time and all that kind of stuff take longer, but when you're filming, it takes a lot more of your day to get these battle reports done. It slows down the game. And so sometimes and I'm used to this pace of trying to just move along and get things done, whereas the opponent might not be. And they might just kind of take their time getting to things, which is their normal way of being used to doing things. And so they might be on the other side of the table and are about to do some pile-ins, and I realize that it's totally inconsequential how, in certain cases, some cases it is consequential how you pile in, but most of the time it's just like 3-inch, let's move it. Or if they're rolling dice, I help them to count them up quickly and keep it moving. So it's more because I really want to be able to get more battle reports done. But I do think I do it too often. But it's just a habit that kind of was created by the necessity of trying to keep things moving as quickly as possible. And I do know that other people have commented on it, so I've been trying to pay attention to it, but like I said, it is a habit, and sometimes it's necessary, especially certain opponents. They're wonderful people to play against, but they just don't move as quickly as they need to in order for us to be able to keep the filming on track. So it's different. It's a total different mentality when we're playing games and battle reports than what you're experiencing at your local gaming store or in your basement or wherever you happen to be playing, because we're filming, because there's so much more on our mind, and that's one of them. So, but I can see how it bothers people, and so I do try to watch that. Linus. Hey Matt, a couple questions. One, I think I finally solved the steal the initiative rule. What do you think? If you roll a 6, you steal the initiative. If you roll a 1, your opponent gets to hit you in the face with a cream pie. Think about it. It would genuinely make people think twice about trying to steal the initiative. People wouldn't want to argue about army balance because it wouldn't directly affect the outcome of the game, and it would add an extra layer of entertainment to your battle reports. That's actually pretty funny. Imagine the sinking feeling you get when the die rolls over to a 1 and you realize you're playing against Dave. Would you consider trying it just once? I reckon you'd get a lot of positive feedback if you did. Of course we would get a lot of positive feedback if people are getting pies to the face during their battle reports. That's an interesting idea, and I will consider that. 2, have you ever considered using the Archaeotech artifacts from 6th edition 40k as objectives? I've used them and found them much more entertaining than using mysterious objectives, and take much less administering, as most of them are triggered when they're discovered and then you can forget about them. I particularly like finding a relic, which makes that objective worth 2 more victory points. It can really change the shape of a game, especially as it's not clear from the start where or if the hidden relics are. Alternatively, there's the idea of creating non-objectives, objective markers that look like objectives but turn out to be worth nothing when you discover them. What do you think? I think that would add a really cool element to the game. Maybe not so much Maelstrom of war games, but Eternal War, where you're trying to get them by the end of the game. So as you're moving about, it would be kind of cool to have a mission where there's like 10 objectives on the table, but only 4 or 5 of them will turn out to be something. And you find that out by maybe you have like a little deck of cards, so that or you can roll dice for it. But rolling dice, of course, if you want there to be a certain amount that always show up, then you need to be able to like re-roll certain things. So there's a table, and once you've rolled something on the table, you have to re-roll that result. But I do like that idea. Now the thing is, because we're making these battle reports for the general public, most people like us to stick with regular rules rather than a lot of house-made rules or scenarios. Now, scenario-wise, I guess there'd be a lot of room for that. But I guess the bread and butter of the battle reports, people want to see the things that are in the rule book and things that are in the supplements and all of that. But that doesn't mean that in narrative campaigns or in special scenarios we couldn't have some cool things like that. Like I really liked the scenario where they're worth a different amount of points each. Like some are worth 1, some are worth 2, some are worth 3. Because it really changes the game that you're kind of going into it blind, that you can place objectives however you like, but when you go to discover them, you find out that one's kind of useless, it's just 1 victory point, and then this other one's worth 3, and so you have to really fight over that one. And of course, it's not balanced because you might get lucky and have the one that's in your deployment zone turn out to be the one that's worth a lot, and your opponent has none. Just like Maelstrom of War missions, none of these things are balanced except for the fact that everybody has the same chance of getting certain things. But that doesn't mean that you're going to draw the right cards or the objectives that you need to be able to get. So, but I don't think it's fully about balance. It's more about trying to create this game where anything can happen, and that you have to kind of be ready for these sudden shifts in tactics and be able to be flexible. And sometimes just have the dice and the cards work totally against you and make it so that you can't win no matter what you do, or that you can win no matter how poorly you do. So that's the game of miniature wargaming. But then I guess that's the same for a lot of games, except maybe computer games. But if you're playing board games, a lot of those have random elements, rolling dice. Like you can talk about balance all you want, like things like Settlers of Catan or whatever. But in the end, I've played games where you roll those 2d6 and Settlers, and your numbers just don't ever come up. And so it's hard. You can't ever totally balance it. Even if you had a card system where once the card is drawn, you don't get it again. It might come up at the wrong time. It's like saying that you have a card system for rolling your dice. So there's an equal number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, and 6s. But sometimes you want lower, and sometimes you want higher. And maybe for example, you need a 3+, and you draw one of your 6s. And later on you need a 6+, but there's one less 6 in there. And so it's still, no matter what, the randomness of the game imbalances it, no matter how balanced the game is to begin with, or in the case of 40K, how imbalanced it is. So you have to just kind of accept that. You have to accept the randomness. Sometimes it'll screw you over, sometimes it'll hand you the game, and sometimes it'll make them, and often it makes for very entertaining and very awesome moments where unexpected things happen, whether good or bad. All right. Sticky Wicket. Greetings, Matt. I know the topic is old, but I think I found a nice solution to the problem of needing to fudge dice. Amongst the teeming billions of the galaxy, the characters in a narrative campaign are some of those rare few destined for something greater. Whoever they are, the characters possess a special quality that sets them apart. They are cut above, they triumph where others would be doomed to failure, and they live where others would die. This is the role of fate. All characters begin play with one or more fate points, determined by how important they are to a campaign. At the beginning of each game session, a character receives his full complement of fate points. During the game, you can spend them, so you can use them to manipulate certain situations. For example, reroll a single die, instantly regain a wound, instantly recover from a status effect such as blind. See, the thing is, that's a cool system. Lord of the Rings uses that kind of system with their might points and all of that, but it doesn't change the fact that the dice could still totally screw you over. That might give them a bit of a buff, but that's all it's really doing, is giving them a buff. For example, if you get yourself an important character that you want to live in a situation where they're surrounded and they're about to hit 10 or 15 times in close combat, and that scores 6 wounds on them, and they only have 2 wounds left with only a 5-up armor save or something like that, the character is going to take so many wounds that even your fate point system won't be able to bring them back. And so in the end, we have to approach our narrative campaigns in respect to our characters in one of 2 ways. One, we either just accept whatever happens, and important characters might die, and unimportant characters might become more important and kind of interesting. I like that solution. The second one, of course, is to story your way through it and keep the important characters kind of out of harm's way as much as possible, but that doesn't produce for the best things. So I think what you're just going to see in our future narrative campaigns is I'm not going to create stories as much that are dependent on the characters. and they'll be more dependent on the overall armies, and that way characters can rise and fall. Because as soon as I care about the characters, they stop being good. Like you get like Khrushchev, who's like fantastic, and then in the next campaign where we bring him back, he doesn't do as well. Like you just have no control over it. So, which is too bad because you start to care about certain characters. But we're not writing a movie or a TV series where we can totally kind of do whatever we want with them because it's all scripted. It's all dice. And so I don't think there really is a solution if you care about the character, because sometimes the dice are just going to say, nope, that character is meant to be dead. And you just have to accept that and move on. I think that's what we're going to have to do. Rubs, why doesn't Dave do pie plate challenges anymore? Is he out of whipped cream? Can I send him some? Vault member for pie plate challenges. I don't know actually, but he started something called a cupcake challenge. Yeah, I think you've seen it once with Dan, where I think they play kill points, and every time you get a kill point, you toss a cupcake at your opponent. And I think he's going to be trying those a bit more. But I don't know why he doesn't specifically do pie plate challenges. Leafs fan 84. Do you think it was right that someone came in to film a battle report against Dave and got hit with a Lord of War, then a single demon? Oh, who automatically knows invisibility? I just want to say I started watching both and didn't have the desire to finish either. I love your content as a rule, but this wasn't great. I'm sorry to say. Go Maple Leafs. So answer your question, do I think it was right? Yes. Why do I think it's right? Because the person came in and they sat down and they talked about what they're going to do, and the person said, yeah, that sounds like fun. You don't know how something's going to turn out until you play it, even though to you it might be obvious. To the players at the time when they're setting it up, they're like, yeah, maybe this could work. So yeah, if we're going to do crazy stuff like that, we always talk about it with our opponent and make sure that they're okay with that. So yes, it was totally right. Was it interesting? Maybe not. But that happens quite often, that we'll set up the two armies, it looks interesting, then one person just kind of, anytime it's a one-sided battle, it becomes a lot less interesting. But that's the way it is with this kind of entertainment. I always refer back to things like watching sports games. A lot of sports games, there's those nail biters where they're close, and then there's a lot of them that are just kind of not that as entertaining. But you watch them all anyways because you never know when you're going to have one that is really awesome. And you can still enjoy generally the ones, unless they're like super one-sided, but that's just the way it is. Just like sports, we record every game that's played and we show every game that's played, with some very, very, very rare exceptions. And so you get to see the good, the bad, the ugly. So I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Ozek Ottoman. Hi Matt, regarding shooting in the units locked in combat from the previous sit and talk, there is a precedent for a model to be allowed to shoot at his allies. Inquisitor Karamazov can choose to shoot his orbital bombardment, and he may fire it every turn into a friendly model if it is or is not locked in close combat. If he chooses to do so, that shot does not scatter. An awesome rule that represents his ruthlessness, but also raises a lot of questions why other armies can't do it. Yeah, it's kind of like picking and choosing when they're going to want that kind of rule in there, but it totally changes the game if all of a sudden you're allowed to do it. And so it's something that you have to kind of tread lightly on. Either you kind of start off the game with that, and then you start to balance everything, remembering that can happen. Like tie up that close combat unit with a single crappy termagant. I have one termagant left, so I charge into combat. Or maybe that's a bad example because they'd probably kill it. But tie it up with something weak, and then gun at it with your heavier stuff. But it does also, yeah, it's just a different thing. It's not good or bad. It's just a different game style. Now, before I go any further, I forgot I want to also talk about the fact that just last week and the week before that, my wife and I took a trip to the UK. I put up a live sit and talk last Friday that we did at Dark Sphere. That is a store in London. Then the owners of the store were gracious enough to set aside a large area, set up about 50 chairs, and allow us to host a sit and talk for a couple of hours. So thank you to Dark Sphere. You can check them out, darksphere.co.uk. So that one went up last week, and there were some questions posted on there. I'm drawing questions from the week before, but there was one or two that I wanted to address. One like asking how the trip was, and another one that was asking my honest opinion of Warhammer World, because just recently they opened up their new exhibit area, because before it was just the one room, I think, that was just tons and tons of painted models and glass cabinets. And then they renovated and opened up a whole exhibit area that you have to pay to enter, which I thought was interesting. I don't agree with having to pay, because when you look at it, all you want to do is buy stuff. And so to limit the number of people that go in there, but whatever. Let's put that aside. So, a bit of a negative to have to pay for it, but in the end, who cares? But my impression of Warhammer World was it was fantastic. Basically, part of our trip was to go to Nottingham, even though it wasn't really on the way to anything, just to see Warhammer World. Then there was one day where we did tons of traveling, and we were in Nottingham for a good portion of the day, and all we did was Warhammer World. And they had this big Battle Brothers event going on, so there's lots of players in the main gaming area. The main gaming area was cool. It looks like a castle, but that didn't change with the renovations. The store was cool. There was a Forge World and the Black Library there. They have some exclusive products. We picked up some of those exclusive products, like the Blood Oath Warhammer 40k book. So it's got like old retro cover, but it's not old stuff on the inside. And the exhibit was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. I was prepared to be disappointed. I'm like, I have to do Warhammer World whether I like it or don't like it, because it's just, when you're in the UK, you have to do that if you're obviously into wargaming. And the exhibits were fantastic. There's all the painted models. That was cool. I've seen painted models, like really well painted models, for a long time now in books and in person. So that wasn't so much the awe-inspiring thing. The awe-inspiring thing was all the dioramas. Now, I'm not allowed to show pictures because you're allowed to take pictures, but only for personal use. So if I share them, it would be for commercial use because it would be as mini wargaming, and that's obviously not okay. So, and I'm okay with that. I took tons of pictures anyways just for inspiration, but they had just these stupendously fantastic dioramas, like at least, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 of them at least. And one of them was, it was probably 700 or 800 square feet, and probably at the highest points 15 feet tall, 10 to 15 feet tall. You can actually see pictures of it in this book. And it was and there also was a new Warlord Titan in there, so apparently that's coming out next month. There also was the poster in there, the poster in the store that showed that Age of Sigmar is July 11th, but they've revealed that since. So the new Warhammer Fantasy will come out on July 11th, up for pre-order on July 4th. But the exhibits were just awe-inspiring. Like, I was looking at them, and it's just the amount of time they put into them, and the models aren't on bases. They're all not on, so none of those models can be used in the game. They're all like in more dynamic poses or just grouped together in ways that you can't do in the game because, well, a game's a game, whereas these things are, well, dioramas, and so you can do some obviously very cinematic things in dioramas. And they were just awesome. I can't say enough of it. It was just great. It was one of the highlights of our trip. We also were in London for a few days. London was awesome. Very fast paced. We did a lot of tourist stuff like Westminster Abbey, saw Buckingham Palace, we saw the Natural History Museum, rode on the tubes in the subways, ate a lot of food, did a lot of walking. Very, very tiring. The entire vacation was very tiring, but I loved it. It was so good. Which I'm surprised that I liked it as much as I did. Not because I didn't think I'd like the UK, but I didn't think I'd like a tourist vacation as much as I wanted like a relaxing vacation. But there's very little relaxing that we did. And then the last couple days we spent in Northern Ireland, and we spent it with most of the time with Warren from Beasts of War. And I really wish we had more time to stay there. We filmed a little segment for their Weekender, which they posted last weekend. So you can actually go and take a look at that on beastsofwar.com. It was the free part. They do a free part of their Weekender show, and then they do the Extra Pounds version, which is in their backstage. And we talked about starting a YouTube channel and kind of the whole ride that both Beasts of War and Mini Wargaming has gone through. But Warren and Lloyd and all the guys over there are fantastic. Got to meet Warren's family. He actually took us on a whirlwind tour of Northern Ireland on the Monday that we got there, and we spent all day. We were dead tired by the end, but we got to see so much. And Ireland is a beautiful country, just absolutely gorgeous. The weather, as everybody there will tell you, sucks because it's not as warm as they would like it to be, and it rains all the time and unexpectedly. It goes from cold to hot, back and forth really quickly, sometimes all in the same day. But we were lucky. We didn't get any rain, except for while we were taking a taxi from one spot to another, but that was it. So we were very fortunate for the weather, but just a gorgeous country. And of course Warren drove us around for the entire day, which we didn't expect. He just picked us up from the hotel in the morning, and we were with him for the entire day. And so we're very grateful for Warren and the other guys at Beasts of War for hosting us. It made that part we just loved it. It was a nice change of pace. London was very fast paced. Ireland was fast paced as well because we were just going around at 1,000,000 miles an hour. but it was, the scenery was different. You go from super urban to very rural, and just really, really green in Ireland. And we got to see like ruined castles and the Giant's Causeway, and a bunch of other just kind of stops where we just got to look out on the cliffs and the ocean, and it was fantastic. So we really, really, really enjoyed our trip, and so it was fantastic. And Warhammer World is awesome. Maybe I'm setting your expectations too high if you go, but I absolutely loved it. I got this excited feeling while I was in there, just looking at the stuff, and I could feel the passion of the people who painted the miniatures and put the dioramas together, because they were exquisite, just exquisite. And in the Blood Oath, there's tons of pictures. Like, this just gives you a tiny glimpse at that huge, like I think it's 700 or 800 square feet. I'm just guessing by kind of picturing the size of the room. But there's tons of pictures in the book, all parts of it. But pictures just don't do it justice. I tried taking pictures, and I looked at them afterwards, and I'm like, these just don't look as cool as it was in person. And because the longer you looked at it, the more details you found. And all of a sudden you'd come around a different angle, and you'd find like something that you couldn't see from the other angle, like something underground, or it was just so three-dimensional. It was just awesome, just awesome. So I love the UK. It was great. It's a overall very beautiful country. Even if your roads are too small, if you're from the UK and you drive on the wrong side of the road, or the right side for you, but boy did that throw me off when I was riding in the car, and I never drove, thankfully. I didn't even want to attempt it. We just took taxis and subways and other people driving us around. So that was fortunate that we never had to actually drive ourselves, because I don't think I would have been able to do it. A little too stressful. So I just wanted to cover that because I know a couple people were asking about the trip. So just wanted to address that right here. It was great, and I hope to do it again. I actually just want to go back to Ireland for a week and spend a week with Beasts of War, and it was just great. We talked business, we talked, it was nice to talk to another channel that does what we do, and to see how they're doing, and find out more behind the scenes, take a look at their studios, get some ideas for ourselves, and everything else. So yeah, it was great. Master Khan, hi Matt, I just wanted to say I love the "We Play and Call It Work" intro. You should definitely keep with that. Made me LOL to a significant degree. Yeah, that is our official new logo. You're still going to see both of them probably for the next couple weeks, because we'd already edited a ton of videos that had already been uploaded. And then the ones that are being edited right now have the new intro. So the old intro will phase out. Our new slogan is now officially "We Play and Call It Work." And the idea came from somebody. And I apologize that I can't remember who it was, because I remember it was just a sit and talk once, or maybe in a comment somewhere in some video, and several people had complained about our old logo, our old slogan, which is "We work so you can play." And they're like, well, it looks like you're playing and I'm working so you can play, because I'm paying for the vault membership with the money that I worked for. But it was more a relic from back when we had the store, because you work in a store to sell people miniatures so they can play. So we work so you can play. Justin came up with that, actually, and it kind of stuck, and we really liked it. But now that we don't have the store anymore, and we do pretty much spend the majority of our time playing, and then we tell people that we're working, then the person that said you should call it "We Play and Call It Work," I'm like, I like it. Let's rebrand it to that. So Dave had somebody work on a new logo, and so now we have "We Play and Call It Work." So that's our new official slogan. Jordan Green. Hey Matt, I have two questions. The first is, what would you do if I sang out of tune? I guess the context is important here. Are we singing together at some function? Are you singing to me? Are you just singing in the background? In all the cases, I'd probably ignore it. My second is, if you got a chance to add a new army to Warhammer 40k, what would you add? I would add a second Tyranid army, the Tyranids that come after the Tyranids to consume the worlds and the stars. What would that army look like? I have no idea. You're asking me to be creative, and that's actually very hard for me to come up with something original. Instead, I like to take ideas and change them and mold them. I personally would add either a lizard man army, like some sort of space Aztec feel to them, like space lizard men, which would make sense actually, or a group of octopus, squid, fishmen that are somewhat obsessed with recovering their past lore and trying to get to Terra, where they believe the founder of their race sleeps deep under one of the Terra's oceans. That would be hilarious. I guess to answer your question, lizardmen and Skaven would make for obvious choices, because they're in the fantasy realm, which theoretically is linked with the 40k realm. depending on which retcon you're looking at. And so, yeah, maybe the Lizardman could work. Skaven, of course, Space Skaven. You already have that with Mantic. They have the Veermen, which is basically the Space Skaven. Well, or Space Rats, I guess. I can't say that they're necessarily ripping off Skaven when Skaven is just an army of rats. And so it's, when you have basic ideas like that, it's hard to say when somebody's ripping off somebody else, or whether it's just like, how many different ideas can you really come up with? Elves and orcs and dwarves. It's hard to come up with super original ideas like a lizard army, an Egyptian army, a rat army. But either way, there is the Veerman army for Mantic Games. That kind of is reminds me of the Skaven, of course, and it's the space version of them. So making those could make sense as well. But how they would fit into 40K and feel right, that'd be interesting to figure it out. All right. Red Dangus. What advice do you have for people traveling long distances to play with the mini wargaming team? What's a typical day like? Well, we asked people to show up for about 9:30 a.m. and we film until about 5 p.m. And we feed you lunch. And then after that, it's up to you what you do in the evening. Niagara Falls is nearby, so you can go and entertain yourselves there. I would love, and maybe in the future we'll be able to do this, I would love to be able to kind of host people for the entire time that they're here. In other words, lodge them, feed them, entertain them, all that kind of stuff. Or at least have a place that, the different volunteers can, get some games in together in the evening or whatever. It's not feasible right now financially because we're just a small business and we have so many people coming in. And that's why we try to do our best with things like feeding them lunch. We actually give out we have some mini wargaming dice and measuring tapes that we like to give to them just as a thank you. So a typical day, when you come in from that distance, it's obviously, I would suggest Niagara Falls because that's a huge tourist attraction. I always take it for granted because I'm born and raised here. I've seen it 100 times. But for somebody coming from a distance, then it's something you got to see. And there's lots of tourist stuff to do at Niagara Falls, whether it's winter or summer. So that's what I would suggest doing. Where you get your hotel doesn't matter because Niagara Falls isn't that far. So whether you get a hotel in Niagara Falls and then travel to Welland for your games, or get a hotel in Welland and travel to Niagara Falls for your evenings, that is totally up to you. The Emerald Knight 15. Here's a question, Matt. When is the next narrative campaign coming? I really like the idea of Warzone Apothis, but I sadly just don't have the time to watch that amount of videos. Can't wait to see the Nurglenids. Not for a little while. The Warzone Apothis is taking most of our attention right now. I'm probably going to start filming another narrative campaign late August. That's actually how booked up we are for our schedule. Might be as late as September. The Nurglenids, I'm going to do those when they're ready. I'll probably do something else before that. Because with the Nurglenids, I want to kind of watch. I'm worried that the Nurgle Demonkin update will happen right in the middle of us doing that campaign, and so I just want to make sure everything is lined up for that one. So that one I'm planning for fourth quarter of this year. But yeah, Warzone Apothis has been an interesting experiment, and it's not done yet, so I can't really give a report on what I think about the whole thing. But I am looking forward to getting back to regular narrative campaigns as well. All right. So that's somebody asking about my vacation. Somebody talking about the new intro. Bowser Delta. Hi Matt, Bowser Delta here. I was just wondering a few things. When did you first realize exactly what you had in your hands with mini wargaming? What has been your favorite moment since the company has taken off? And lastly, has anything that has happened that was caused by your association with the company you have created in mini wargaming changed your life? Well, definitely mini wargaming has changed my life. It's what I do for a living. So I spend 40 hours a week, 40 hours, sometimes more if you count the time I spend at home working or reading or anything like that. So definitely has been a huge influence on my life that way. When did I first realize kind of the company we were creating? Well, that's hard to kind of point out because it's gone through so many iterations from the early days of we'll make some videos and sell stuff on our store to let's introduce this idea of the vault, and then the vault itself has evolved from just something that was on the side to the main thing that we do, and then the store closed. I think the point that I realized that we had something that could really work for us long term was a couple years ago. when we shut down the store and then we got enough Vault members to cover all of our expenses. Because at the time that we shut down the store, we didn't have enough Vault members to cover all of our expenses. And so we had a special promotional thing. We got a bunch of Vault members, but we still didn't quite have enough. But within the next few months, we kind of hit that point where we could be autonomous with the Vault. And now it's grown beyond that, which has allowed us to expand. As you see, we're making new studios, hiring new people, all that kind of stuff. So what mini wargaming will look like in the future, I have no idea. Right? Whether it'll be a big organization with lots of different people making videos, or if it'll kind of stay the size that it is right now with just a few main players. It's hard to say. The market is not enormous, and so it all comes down to how many people are willing to become Vault members, and part of that comes down to the quality that we can put out and the type of videos that we put out too. So, but yeah, I'd say the past couple of years has been when it's become evident that this can work long term, barring any major catastrophe. El Demonio de Revolucion. What's up, Matthew? Here are my questions. 1, I know this is probably awkward, but what happened to Dark Potential? We just didn't have the funds, time, knowledge, or expertise to really make it work. So it is on the indefinite back burner. Will we once again pick it up one day? Maybe, but we have no plans for it. Everything else in our business is working too well to say, let's take our time and energy and money away from what is making us money and put it into something that is very expensive to develop and that we have very little experience with. So hopefully one day we can pick it up again or something similar to it, but I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. 2, if you have Nurgle nids, then why don't you get Zinch nids, Slan nids, or Corn nids? Because Nurgle nids are most interesting to look at because of their, all the plague stuff. It seemed to make the most sense if you were going to combine 2 of them. 3, which works better, seduction, persuasion, or intimidation? Probably seduction. Thank you, and may your life be rich. Thank you. King, hi Matt, I joined the Vault to watch the awesome Infinity videos that you guys put out. I was just wondering when the next videos are due, or have they been suspended? Thanks. Leland has been working very hard to get ready to really get those going again, and I think he told me the other day that next week you're going to start seeing them come out. And I don't know if they're going to be on a weekly or every other week basis at first, but our goal is to get them out weekly. And then to kind of see how the response to them and try to grow that part of our market. Kamikaze 101. Just had to say, after watching that battle report with the Damacaron, who passed all of its 4+ feel no pain saves, I guess it was more like a Demonecron. Perhaps from the Demacurian detachment. Har har. Very good. Fantas Eric. Hiya, Matt and Mini Wargaming Gang. So you're traveling to England? Not anymore. I'm from Norway, the neighbor. Come and play me. Yeah, neighbor, like that's still a good distance. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm pure Warhammer fantasy. Have you ever been in Europe? Looking forward to the trip. Now, that was my first trip to Europe at all. I haven't been to that many different continents. Now, being Canadian or American, you can travel a lot and never leave your country. You have this is huge, like the amount of land that Canada, and the United States cover. And so, I could drive 12 hours and still be in the United States. I could drive farther than that, actually. I could drive for a couple days and not even be across Canada. And whereas in Europe, obviously you can get through several countries in that time. And so it's interesting because no, I haven't traveled to many countries, but distance-wise. So I've been to Canada, United States, Tahiti, and now to the UK and the Republic of Ireland because we flew out of Dublin, so technically I've been there. So that's all the different countries that I've visited. So that was our first trip to Europe. Love to go to Italy next, whenever the heck that would be. Foe, what if just saying all the ones that give D3 victory points give you 2 victory points? Then you still get rewarded for a harder objective, but it doesn't get too random. I.e., sometimes you get shafted by loads of 1s, or win because you roll a lot of 3s. But then you could get shafted by something else. Everything is random. Your opponent might draw all those 1s, and you might only get ones that you can't get. There's no way to perfectly balance it. And so I like the way the Maelstrom one works. I really like the Maelstrom ones. I'd probably change some of the tactical objectives, but overall, I think it's a really interesting system to make some fun scenarios. Yar's Revenge. Hi, Matt. Actually left a comment in the right place this time, and getting an answer, too. Been a Vault member for about 6-ish months now. Loving it. What advice would you have for someone looking to organize a campaign similar to Wars on Apothis, and what things would you recommend are worth taking into consideration when planning it? Many thanks, Yar's Revenge. Well, doing it exactly the way that we're doing it might be hard for you because you don't have people that you can force into playing like we do with our employees. Although the system does allow for anybody to kind of come in and play. So you could just do it exactly the same way, but instead of having like the team captains, you just have the factions and people kind of come in and play. The trick with any campaign is the longevity of it, keeping people interested. Now we have the advantage of kind of, it's employees doing it, and so they have to stay interested. Or I'm doing it, and I have to stay interested because it's being viewed by tens of thousands of people, and so we need to make sure that we finish what we start. I know that doing ones in your local club or your store or your basement are harder to do because you have people coming in and out. So you basically have to design it in such a way that nobody has to be there from beginning to end. Instead, you just have general factions and stuff doing it. The Crusade of Fire book, if you can pick one of those up, look on eBay or something because they no longer are sold. I like their system. If you just copy their system exactly, maybe make your own story and your own worlds, it works. It totally works. Is it balanced? Absolutely not. Who cares? It's a campaign. They're just for fun. They're a reason to put some narrative behind the games that you're playing. So that's what I would do. All right. Rocket Man Gaijin. Quote, "One day you will be dead." End quote. Mini Wargaming Matt. This made me chuckle. Also, I agree on your opinion on buying and renting. Oh, right, because I was talking about whether it's better to purchase a house or rent a house. Because people talk about, your equity and all that. And I said, no matter what happens, eventually you'll be dead. And it won't have mattered if you purchased or rented, as long as you were able to live somewhere. Wild Horse. In regards to the question in your sit and vault of preferred enemy rerolls for blast weapons, my question is this. Why would you want a reroll a 1? For blast templates, rolling a 1 is a good thing since it lessens the distance you scattered. I get that the reroll would increase the change to get the hit result on the scatter die, but can't the same be said that the reroll would increase the distance scattered if you failed to get the hit result? I hope someone who is much better at math than I could show the percentages. Thanks for all you do, Matt, and the Mini Wargaming crew. I still strongly disagree with anybody who thinks that preferred enemy on a blast weapon allows it to reroll the scatter. Because in the blast and rerolling, it says if you're allowed to reroll your 2 hits, then you could reroll the blast. And a preferred enemy is not re-rolling your hits. It's re-rolling your 1s in your 2 hit rolls. It's a different rule. It's just something completely different. And so, but I do agree with things like prescience allowing you to re-roll your blast weapons or anything that allows you to re-roll. Like now with the new the Space Marine combat doctrines, then let's say you're a tactical Marine with the tactical doctrine turned on and you're firing a missile launcher with the frag missile, then yeah, you get to re-roll that scatter for it, because being tactical you get to re-roll your 2 hits, not just 1s. But I don't agree with anything. If it's anything less than re-rolling all of your failed 2 hits, I strongly disagree with anybody who thinks that you get to re-roll your scatter. It just, to me, doesn't make any sense, and it's both against the rules as written and, in my opinion, the rules as intended. But once again, I can admit that it is somewhat ambiguous, because the wording is never solid. Orky Benji. Matt, any chance of smaller point 40k games, maybe 750 or 1,000 point matches? I know small games can get wonky, but they also can be a nice change of pace. It seems like 90% of the games are 1,500 points. We do those. You can see those in the vault as well. It's often they would be the vault videos, because when we're filming 2 videos, if the first one goes too long, then we don't have as much time for the second one, so we do the smaller points. Although we try to avoid that because we want our vault members to get the big games too. But you're right, sometimes the smaller games can be interesting. So yeah, we do those, but you'll more often find them in the vault. Electric Andrew. Hello, Matt. I have over 100 guardsmen, and I really think I need more. Do I have a problem? Not at all. 100 guardsmen is you're just getting started. Gabadoo! Hey Matt, you said that since Space Marines will be coming out with a new codex, which obviously they already have, some of your Space Marine games are going to end up outdated. I was wondering, have you considered doing a lead-up week where you put out an extra or 2 video per day? You just did that last week and it was awesome. However, I think this might help solve the issue of slightly outdated content. I don't think we have any Space Marine stuff. Let me check. I'm pretty sure we were able to avoid that because most people don't play just Space Marines. Let's see. Oh, we might have one because I see lots of Dark Angels, which those will get updated soon. I see Grey Knights, which won't be updated soon. I see Space Wolves. So I think for the most part, there might be just a couple games that would be outdated. And the Dark Angels ones should be out by the time the Dark Angels Codex gets updated. So we should be fine. I'm planning on playing, well, I guess for you guys it'd be today, a couple Space Marine games and get them up next week. Just because we want to showcase a new Space Marine, so we're pretty excited for it. And of course, right now the Space Marine reviews are going out, so you can check those out at our website. And P.S. Can you tell Chris his mustache rocks? Chris, your mustache rocks.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. TJ Duty. Hey Matt, have to say I almost died from excitement when I saw the intro to the Cupcake Challenge video and saw We Play and Call It Work. It must be almost a year since I suggested that as your catchphrase. TJ Duty! It's your fault. On the comments of this very show, and I was really pleased to see it used. Hope you had a great trip to the UK. I won't get to see you here, but the idea of Dave and SS82 playing a match sounds awesome. Who's SS82? Oh, Striking Scorpion. Yeah, unfortunately Dave wasn't able to go because of a death in the family. But yes. Yeah, okay, so it was you, TJ Duty. There you go. You get the bragging rights, I guess, of having suggested our new slogan, We Play and Call It Work. Naglaref, just watched Apocalypticon 2013, and to my surprise, I saw Leland in the video. Since when did you know Leland? Well, he's not around for me to ask him. It's been a while. I don't know which Apocalypticon he came to first. Was he at the first? He was at the first Apocalypticon, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he was the Sisters player.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I can remember that, is because he has an unusual army, because not a lot of people play Sisters. Yeah, I think he's been... And when was that first Apocalypticon? What year was that? Last year was our last one. That's 2014.
Anyway.
How many did we do? Did we do 3 or 4?
There was 4.
We did the 80,000 one, and then we did the one at the other church down the road, and then we did the one in Hamilton. Did we do 2 in Hamilton or just 1?
I thought there was
There's 2 in there's 2 in Hamilton. Oh no, there was 2 here in 2 different churches. Because then we had the gymnasium. Yeah, we've done 4. So that would mean 2014, 13, 12, 11. 2011, I guess that would have been around the time. I don't know if he came in for battle reports other than that. I can't remember, honestly. That's a long time ago. So it's been several years. All right, we have time for another question or two before we go into the sit-in vault in the Mini Wargaming Vault. Tempest 1989. Hey Matt, one question and one rules debate. 1, do you think that the Tyranid Codex wouldn't have been nerfed so much if more of the units were beasts? I think they need more than that. It would be nice if things like Hormagaunts were beasts, but I don't know if that would on its own really make that much of a difference. I think, and you know what? I've been playing Tyranids a lot more lately, despite with this campaign, and I've been winning most of my games. Now, it could just be who I'm playing against. Maybe that's just the armies they're bringing aren't as strong as some others. I haven't really played against Necrons and Eldar, of course, so that would be a tough one. But I've just kind of been figuring out stronger ways to play them. But at the same time, the one thing I have noticed is that they have a hard time with anything that's like higher armor 12 or up. They just don't have any default things until they get into close combat, which of course in the 7th edition 40k is a lot harder to do. So I wish they did have some more stronger ranged weapons. I think that would be the thing I would add. 2, in a challenge, outside forces cannot make attacks against a lone character. That is not true. The outside forces rule only states that wounds can be allocated to a challenge if the rest of the enemy is removed. It doesn't say anything about being allowed to roll to hit. Your thoughts? Yeah, you're right. It doesn't say anything about being allowed to roll to hit. It also doesn't say anything about not being allowed to roll to hit. So because it doesn't say you can't roll to hit, where would you get the idea that you can't, besides the relic of 6th edition where it specifically said that you could not? It actually treated it as 2 different combats for all intents and purposes. The only thing that a challenge does, if you read the rules, the only rules that it changes is that wounds can't be allocated into or out of a challenge until everything inside or outside of the challenge has been destroyed. So 2 guys inside the challenge cannot allocate wounds outside the challenge until they've killed the challengee or challenger, their other opponent. And guys outside the challenge cannot allocate wounds into the challenge until everybody else is dead. It says nothing anywhere about being not able to attack. The only thing it talks about with attacking is that the challenger and challengee have to use each other's weapon skill and strength and toughness when determining what they have to roll. And then everybody else on the outside uses the stuff on the outside's weapon skill and ballistic skill or a weapon skill to roll. But once those guys are gone, then you're using that one. So it doesn't tell you you can't. And since in the regular basic assault rules, it tells you how to do it. You don't remove something from the rules just because you think that they shouldn't be able to do that. So it's a relic of 6th edition that people still think that you wouldn't be able to attack a lone character. You absolutely can. Which is why I think the challenges were greatly improved, because it stopped a lot of shenanigans from happening. Like, well, I'll just throw my weak sergeant in front of your big guy with 7 attacks, and you're only able to kill 1 guy. Now, well, I'll kill him, and then the rest of them will still spread to the rest of the unit as well. It still gives you some control over how you determine who gets to attack what, but it doesn't stop you from being able to make attacks at all. So definitely, I'm 100% sure on that. 100%. Sometimes I'm 99.9% sure, and until an FAQ or errata comes out, but I'm 100% sure on that one. Vault member, as soon as I have some moolah, keep on rolling. Well, that's all the time we have for the free portion of our sit and talk. Now we're going to start the sit and vault, which will be at the link in the video description below for all our vault members. If you're not a vault member, you can still click the link, get a free 7-day trial, get instant access to the thousands of videos that are in there. You get full unrestricted access for the 7-day free trial. We don't give you limited access. You get, as if you're a paying vault member, you get everything that's in there. So you can consume as much as you want and then cancel. And even if you forget to cancel and you wanted to, we have a 30-day full money back guarantee, because we don't want your money if you don't want to give it to us. That's just the rule of thumb that we have. And so try it out. It really helps us support us. It is what allows us to do this. I tell the people all the time, but our YouTube revenue doesn't cover the rent of this building, the portion of the building that we are leasing. And so it kind of gives you an idea of why we need our vault members so much, because they pretty much pay for everything for us. So thank you, of course, to everybody who watched this, especially to our vault members who help support us financially. Go ahead and click the link below to watch the Sit and Vault, and happy wargaming.